one of the largest and longest running empires in history, spanning 623 years, from 1299 to 1922.
The Ottoman Empire.
And through continents, including the Balkans in southeastern Europe, Arabia and Central Asia, and coastal northern Africa. Like many great empires that came before it, the Ottoman Empire was based on slavery. But unlike most examples of slavery, in the Ottoman Empire, slaves were white.
So you hear that? In the Ottoman Empire, the slaves were white. And also this was in the late 1200 century to the early 13th or 1300 century. I think it was 1299 is when the uprising started. Let's say 1300s then, let's put it 1300. The Ottoman Empire, I didn't even know they had, until I came across this video, I didn't even know they had the Ottoman Empire, and they had white slaves. I know they were slaves because every continent used to enslave their own, who they have. The powerful always enslave the weak. But a white slave self, this is my first time. That's why I like this video. You can just go into this video and again learn about it and then see if it's factual or not about the Ottoman Empire. But I know of the Ottoman Empire though. It's a fact. I've heard of it. But anyway, let's continue.
The Ottoman slave trade spanned the entirety of the empire's existence, even after attempted abolishments in the late 19th century. Particularly during the earlier centuries of the empire, slaves were taken during war raids or politically organized expeditions ordered by the Sultan across southern and eastern Europe, the Balkans, and the Caucasus, with a large percentage shipped to the capital Constantinople, nowadays known as Istanbul. And later, from the 16th to 19th centuries, a huge number of Europeans, hundreds of thousands, were captured by Barbary pirates and sold as slaves to the Ottoman Empire, although the Ottomans themselves did not participate in these raids.
As always, they never just participate, but they have them anyway.
1 in 5 residents of
stick up in. Southern Europe and Asia, part of Asia and part of Africa was under the Ottoman Empire rule, according to this. So it was Europe, Asia. So that's the Ottoman Empire spanned 3 continents. That's a lot of continents to cover. And there was a sultan. The sultan's, I forget his name. Something under the Magnificent. Let's get into it.
Constantinople were slaves, which was not dissimilar to the Roman Empire.
Constantinople, aka Istanbul.
This is the largest example of white slavery in history, although comparatively lesser study has been done on this than the African-American slave trade.
Yeah, because it's not, I've never really heard of it before until now.
Like Richard the Lionheart, who journeyed across Europe to forcefully convert people to Christianity and take over their land, the Ottoman Empire did much the same, but was Muslim-led and instead captured Eastern European.
But you see, it was Muslim-led as well. Don't forget, when the slave trade started in Africa, it was the Arabs who came and bought slaves from the king of that area of Africa then. And also, the Ottoman Empire was Turkish. It's in Turkey. It was started in Turkey, which is now known as the Turkish Empire. I read somewhere. But they all do the same thing. They always say, oh, they didn't take part in the enslavement, but they bought slave. This is what every slave owner argument was up to this day.
And young Christian boys to convert them and enlist them in a special branch of the Ottoman army known as the Janissaries. More on them later. And although religion and payback played their own part in the Ottoman raids, financial reasons provided a far greater motive for enslaving those from conquered countries.
All slave
at least we can conclude
started because of financial gain. That's the basis of
most sources available on slavery in the Ottoman Empire comes from white, Christians, Western Europeans, and those removed from the actual empire's existence. As such, we cannot qualify the accuracy of these accounts, being that they are told through the lens of people who did not experience the empire themselves and have many cultural biases in their reporting. A few accounts from within the empire give us some rare insights into how slavery was viewed through the lens of the Ottomans themselves.
And also notice it's always Christianity. They always started enslaving because remember the king, he said the king always go around forcing Christianity on other cultures, and then when they don't accept it, they say they are pagans, and the Muslims do the same thing.
First, it's important to know that Muslims held a very different view on slavery to other nations and
They
religions
still enslave
involved in
people,
slave
whether they're
trade.
enslaved or not.
The Quran suggests that slaves should be treated with kindness and encourages manumission, freedom of slaves who have proved their loyalty. The Quran also teaches that slaves are of equal moral standing to their masters, but lower
See,
legal
people always
status,
use the Bible
and
as
not
an
legally
excuse to do things.
differentiated by
They
their
use in the
skin color.
Quran. Same
Despite
thing
this,
as a
though,
Christian.
Those with disabilities and darker skin tones, coming from the sub-Saharan regions of Africa,
Which is mostly like
often
Africa.
sold for a much smaller price than their fit, healthy, and white counterparts. All Ottoman slaves were
Stick up in. So even in slavery, whites were still put above black. You see, the white slave fetch a better price than the black slaves. So even during slavery, black people was always behind white people, as I see in the Ottoman Empire. Let's continue. Oh, and don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. As long as a like is free, so click the like button. It helps with the algorithm. Also, click the notification bell so you get notified when I drop a new video. You don't know? Let's go.
expensive, usually owned by high-ranking officials who paid the most for virginal European girls aged between 13 and 25 and healthy teenage boys. But despite their expense, court records have shown that it wasn't just high-ranking officials who owned slaves. They were widespread in Ottoman society and worked domestically.
So domestically, that's mean it's not only high-ranking officials own slave in the Ottoman Empire, which is the white slave they own. They also have the same issue with regular, everyday people, but they have to have some form of status. That's what they're basically saying.
Culturally, in trade and in the military, or forced into sexual slavery. White women held positions in the household, usually seeing to higher profile tasks around the home and caring for the ladies of the house,
Really?
in contrast to their African counterparts, who usually received the more menial of tasks. Meanwhile, the men often worked as labourers or farmhands.
Yeah.
Domestic and labour slaves rarely remained slaves their whole lives, and could use their years in slavery to socially mobilise themselves. Further court records show that citizens of the Ottoman Empire lived by certain Islamic ideals with regards.
So stick up in. So even though, so again, in slavery, they still give white people preference over the black slaves, even though they are both slaves. Because you see, only white slaves was give certain positions in the home. They give the black slaves menial, like the lesser stuff to do, but they only give important things to the white slaves. So they still held the white people above white black people, even if they are both slaves and they are both slaves in that household. It's like a child and a stepchild. You give a stepchild most of the work to do, the sweeping the yard and the cleaning the dishes and keeping the house, while your child would be like taking care of the house, like handling the finance or helping with the baby or something. So still, it was a level below the white slaves, even though they're both slaves.
To slavery, and that they often freed their slaves upon their, the master's, deaths, or, in many cases, before. Many experienced slavery for around 7 years if they were black, and 9 years if they were white, to prove their loyalty before they were freed and usually moved up the ladder
So
in
that's
their
the
field of
only
work, to become formed
good thing about being a slave
overseas,
then is you get
where they would become
you serve 7
slaves
years
with
while the white
contracts,
serves 9. So
clients
that's the
of
only
their former
advantage
masters,
black people had
and
then.
receive wages.